Howdy historians, we are here to talk about your DBQ, your document-based question essay. You can see the rubric here. We're going to talk about what some of this stuff means. We're going to talk about some general stuff, and I'm going to give you some examples so that way we can really start to hone in on how to effectively write a DBQ. So one quick thing in general, this is the entire AP test for the year 2020. So all you're going to do for your AP test is write one of these. Okay, you're going to have 5 documents. They want you to use at least 4 of them. You know, we'll talk about some more of that document use in the future, but you're going to have 5 documents, 45 minutes to write this. Okay, so I have some general thoughts for you guys and then some more specific stuff. As we were just talking about time frame, my first specific thought for you is don't take too much time. For many of you, if I saw that you took a very long time to write your DBQ because the software that we use on my DSH8 tells me how long you took. For some of you, I sent you a little note and said, hey, try not to use so much time. But honestly, most people took more than 45 minutes to write it. Many, I'd say at least 75% of you took at least 75 minutes to write your DBQ. You're only going to have 45 minutes. Okay, we're going to quick write 2 more of these before your AP test. You guys can do some more on your own if you want to. The first time, hey, it's okay, you're getting used to it, but now in the second and third time that we're writing these DBQs, you've really got to start to get closer to the time frame, because if you're consistently taking 75, 85, 90, 120 minutes to write these, you're going to get to the AP test, you're only going to have 45 minutes, and you're just not going to get enough done. All right, so really try to be on the honor system here and not take too long. All right, try to do DBQ number 2 in about 50 minutes, and then DBQ number 3, set a timer 45 minutes, that's it. Okay, now one thing that's going to help you do all of these things in a 45-minute time frame is going to be brainstorming and making an outline. All right, and again, it doesn't need to be a ton. All right, I'm just going to quick open up a document here. All right, you want to quick break down the prompt. Okay, like what's the question actually asking? Don't forget to do that. Okay, then you want to brainstorm, and for that brainstorm, you really just want a bullet point list, right, where you're just going through, and then you want to write a quick thesis. All right, and then you want to make an outline. All right, and for that outline, keep it super basic. All right, you got a major piece of evidence, right? You can use doc 1, doc 3, right? And then you're just going through, right, and making it. So just keep it simple, keep it bullet point. But this will help you. Breaking it down so you know what's actually being asked will help you effectively answer it. Brainstorming so you have lots of info. A good thesis is an easy way to get some points. And then this quick bullet point outline is going to help you use the 45 minutes as effectively as possible. Okay, so don't forget to go through those steps. Now, some more specific stuff, all right, or sorry, 2 more general things before I get to the specific stuff. Okay, so 1, remember, don't take too much time. Try to keep it to 45 minutes. Remember to write in past tense. Okay, one specific thing for this DBQ, remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president during the Great Depression. Teddy Roosevelt was not. All right, some of you got that confused, especially in a situation like this when you have time to look stuff up. Look it up. You won't on the AP, but you will when you're writing mine. Okay, so like get organized. Okay, now some specific parts of the rubric that I want to go through. All right, we're going to look at thesis statements in a moment, and I'm going to show you 3 different thesis statements so you can understand how to get the point. All right, that's a point that we should always get. All right, unless you really get caught by surprise, you should also always get the context point. Remember, we did a little activity about context where we watched the Star Wars opening scene where that text scrolls across the screen to give you some background so you understand the movie. That's context. You want some in your introduction paragraph, what's going on leading up to the Great Depression. You want some in your body. You'll just kind of get that by explaining things well. And then you want some context in your conclusion, what's on the horizon. We're going to go into World War II. That's eventually going to pull us out. FDR is regarded as a successful president. Okay? Documents. Okay? If you use 2 documents, you get 1 point. If you use 2 documents and explain their content to support your argument, you get a point. Okay, we'll look at a document and do that in a second. If you use 4 documents, you get a point. Okay, so if you have a good thesis, which we'll talk about in a minute, you have some context, you use 4 documents and you explain 2 of them, you're already up to 5 points. All right, and for this DBQ, if you got like a 5 out of 10 or higher, you're in good shape. I know that's alarming to you because you think like a 5 out of 10, that's an F. Try not to think of it like that for right now. I'm trying to put a lot of points into quizzes to balance out some grades for you guys. But if you got a 5 out of 10, you can easily get that up to an 8 or 9 out of 10, which should translate to a 5. They haven't given us that information yet, but most AP teachers are guessing if you get an 8, 9, or a 10, it's going to be a 5. And then if you get probably like a 5, 6, or a 7, it's going to be a 4. But again, we don't quite know how that's going to play out yet. Okay, but use 2 documents, get a point. Use 4 documents, you get another one. Explain 2 documents, get 2 points. Outside evidence, we'll talk about that in a minute. Analysis and reasoning is explaining a document. We'll come back to that. Complex understanding really just means like, did you put together a good paper? And you get a point for that. Okay, so the rubric's out of 10 points. Okay, so let's go to document evidence. Let's talk more about some simple document evidence, and then we'll talk about analysis and reasoning too. All right, let me just go to the DBQ here. All right, so for the point of explaining the content, all right, for this one right here, okay, the response must use the content of the documents to support an argument in response to the prompt, okay? What that's really saying is that they want you to explain the document a little bit, okay? So let's say we're looking at this one, document 1, pride come after the fall, all right? Now, if you're in your essay and you use this document, what you need is like 1 sentence, maybe 2, to explain what it is and a quick relation to your prompt, and you do that for 2 documents, and you're going to get that document point for explaining the content, right? So you would do something like, in document 1, we see a man willing to sell his car for $100 cash because he lost everything in the stock market. Men like this were losing their jobs. Boom. You do that for 2 documents, and you've got this point, okay? Because you're explaining the content in a way that's going to eventually work with your argument, okay? As we can see in document 2, we have the list of stock prices before, during, and after the before and during the Great Depression. Prices were going up leading up to the Depression, then they went down, and after FDR was elected, they started to go back up. Boom. All right, you do that and you're going to get that point. Okay, so that's kind of what they're talking about here with this document evidence. Okay, so simple explanation of 2 documents, use 4 documents, and that's going to get you 3 points right there. Okay, let's talk about thesis statements. All right, so for thesis statements, all right, here's a simple thesis. This isn't going to get you any points. All right, we know the prompt, it's right here. Well, it's right up top. You can refresh yourself with it if you need to. Simple thesis. President Roosevelt, Congress, and the New Deals effectively dealt with the Great Depression and gave Americans hope for a better future. 1, you're not giving the reader any causes. 2, you're not establishing any categories, which is like your answers to the question. So you're not really answering the prompt, you're just restating it. Here's an average thesis. This would maybe get you a point if the reader's feeling generous, but it probably won't. President Roosevelt, Congress, and the New Deals worked to restore Americans' faith in the government by addressing bank failures and unemployment with programs of relief, reform, and recovery. Okay, so this is better. There's 2 causes, bank failures and unemployment, but the categories are vague. All right, the categories are like your answer to the question. This is how you are evaluating the extent of the response to the causes. Right? So you have to have 2 causes in there. You do. But then your categories are vague, so they only partially answer the question. What do programs of relief, reform, and recovery mean? What does that look like? There's no specificity there. That's not really an answer. Okay, that's too vague. That's too general. You want to be a little more specific. Okay, now here's a strong thesis. This is guaranteed to get you a point because you're going to see 2 causes with clear categories that fully answer the question and provide a blueprint for your paper. President Roosevelt, Congress, and the New Deals worked to restore Americans' faith in the government by addressing bank failures, cause number 1. With the bank holiday and establishment of the Federal Deposit Insurance Company. Okay, that's your category. Bank failures that are fixed with the bank holiday and the FDIC. And unemployment, cause number 2, with the creation of jobs programs such as the Public Works Administration, category number 2. Okay, so when you look at this one, President Roosevelt, Congress, and the New Deals worked to restore Americans' faith in the government by addressing bank failures with the bank holiday and the establishment of the FDIC, and unemployment with job creation programs such as the Public Works Administration. You have 2 causes, bank failures, unemployment. You have categories, right? These are the things you're going to talk about in your paper. So it fully answers your question, provides a blueprint. Okay? These are the 3 types of thesis statements that I saw. We want to go to strong. Answer the question and establish your categories. Okay? Now, this analysis and reasoning point, this is one that some of you guys even emailed or messaged me in Teams about. All right? For one document, the argument explains how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, and or audience is relevant to the argument. Translation. For 2 documents, you need to have some in-depth explanation. That's what they're really saying here with this analysis and reasoning point. Okay, so if you have some good in-depth analysis of 2 documents, you get these points. All right, do it for 1 document, you get 1 point. All right, so what does this look like? Okay, well, in the rubric, it gives you a couple things you can do. You can talk about point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience. All right, what does that look like? All right, POV, point of view, that's the author's perspective. For example, if we're talking about one of the graphs, or explaining why a graph was made, that's an example. Here's a more specific one, the picture of the guy selling his car. Okay, so you would do something like this. In document 1, this picture was taken to show the desperation of the Great Depression. A man who was most likely wealthy and prosperous before the Depression is now desperate to sell his car for cash. This demonstrates the impacts the stock market crash had on Americans. Now you're getting in depth with your analysis. Okay, now you want to relate that point of view to your paper, your thesis, a category for the reasoning aspect. To address the issue of this issue of the Depression, FDR passed legislation creating jobs for the unemployed like the Public Works Administration. So men, like the one pictured in document 1, could find a job and provide for his family. Okay? So you're taking it full circle. All right? You're explaining the point of view. That's the analysis. And then you're explaining how it relates to your essay. That's the reasoning. Okay, what's the historical situation? That's just in-depth context. Okay, so let's roll the chart. This chart in document 2 was created to show how much stock prices were impacted by the stock market crash in FDR's election. When analyzing the chart, it is clear stock prices bottomed out in 1932, but then started to increase. This demonstrates that consumer confidence was increasing after FDR's election, and that his programs to better regulate the economy, like the National Industrial Recovery Act, were effective. Okay, boom, there you go. All right, that's what it looks like for historical situation. Audience, who's the intended audience for the document? This political cartoon in document 6 was created to show some people saw FDR as a brave captain guiding America through troubled waters, while others thought FDR was a dangerous socialist. Many Americans during the Great Depression saw FDR as a brave captain who passed needed legislation to get people back to work and reform the American economy. His fireside chats reassured the American people he was working for them, while legislation like the Tennessee Valley Authority created jobs for thousands of Americans. Okay, you don't have to do each one of these for a document, you just choose one. So for 2 documents, do one of the following things. Explain the point of view, explain the historical situation, or explain the audience. Do that for 2 documents, and you'll get your analysis and reasoning points. Okay? Strong thesis, good analysis of 2 documents, use 4 documents, use some context, have a well-structured paper, and you're good to go.